Live from London, it's Plank of the Week with Mike Graham.
Good evening and welcome to Plank of the Week. It is another rip snorter, ladies and gentlemen, so we are here for your delectation and nobody can judge anything better than we can. And I've got a fantastic panel to do all the judging today. I'm going to go with, of course, Mr. Peter Bleksley. We've got Maddie, Hale visiting us again, and we've got Russell Quirk, and we've got Isabel Oakeshott. Welcome to all of you. You're looking particularly resplendent, by the way, Peter, if I may say so. Anyway, let's get on with it, because we've got loads to do. You've got the police, funnily enough.
Well, here we go again. 1st of October 2023.
Yeah.
OK? The police chiefs of Great Britain, and we know how effective they all are.
Yes, very.
They announced another plan.
Right.
This was called the Retail Crime Action Plan.
Really?
And they pledged, they promised, they said they were going to have their officers attend 100%
I remember this.
of all shoplifting cases which involved violence or the detention of an offender.
Right. And did they?
60% thus far.
Right.
How long does it take to say to your police officers, please attend all violent shoplifting cases?
Right. That's pretty easy and straightforward.
It is.
Is this not the same police force in this country, though, who just the other week said, don't bother arresting anybody because we haven't got anywhere to put them?
Yes, well, that was a directive that was handed down. And credits where it's due, the Met were one of the first to say, actually, no, we are going to carry on and do our fundamental job, which is nicking people.
Oh, right. I thought their fundamental job was filming people and then seeing if they could find them later.
And prosecuting people for offending people on social media sites. Let's not lose sight of that.
Crime reference numbers, which is pretty much all they're good for now, isn't it?
Sadly, it is. It is.
God, I'm starting to not feel very safe in this country.
You shouldn't.
No.
Okay.
London.
65 million others.
Especially in London.
That's the idea. It's a hostile environment, you see. So when you come here from another country, you're supposed to not feel safe, and then we might leave again. Yeah.
Okay.
Hopefully.
Off I
It's not
go.
working too well, though.
But Peter, I think you're missing the fundamental point here, which is that they said they had a plan. And we all know that any politician or public figure with a plan doesn't have a plan at all. So that should have been your giveaway. I mean, how many times do we hear this from all of our politicians, that they have a plan?
Yeah. It is ridiculous.
And this, of course, off the back of the fact that shoplifting under £200 or to a value of under £200 has pretty much been decriminalised anyway, isn't it?
Well, it was. It was the Police Crime and Sentencing Bill of 2014.
Yes, as part of this slippery slope that we're kind of way down there, actually, in terms of being pretty near the bottom of that.
Yeah. I mean, I hear from people nearly every day now telling me that they've either had their car broken into or they've had their house broken into. A lot of people now getting private security firms just for the neighbourhood, and the neighbourhood are all kind of paying towards it because they can't trust the police to walk around even just to put people off.
Well, only yesterday I was speaking to a senior police officer on that very subject.
Yes.
Oh, and he got very prickly about it. They're not warranted officers. They shouldn't be doing the job. It's for specially trained people. Well, you're actually not doing it.
Well, I mean, we're talking today in the same week that there was a drive-by shooting in Dalston in north-east London, right? Now, obviously, we don't know how that's going to turn out, and it's a horrible situation, but the police all turned up mob-handed 15 minutes after it happened. So where were they all when that was actually going on? You know, there was about 5 cars suddenly turned up, loads and loads of officers, so they're all sitting somewhere.
Well, this is the point. You never see them, really, or rarely see them. Certainly not on the beat, as we would know it. So you don't see police officers walking around. You don't see them much in the way of their being in patrol cars unless they're on their way somewhere. So where are the police, particularly this extra 20,000 police that Boris, you remember when he pledged that back in 2019? And now the Tories, of course, are saying that they hit that number. What they've forgotten is the 9,000 police officers off of that that have retired or left.
Well,
so where's the deterrent? Where's the deterrent?
We know where they are, don't we? They're in the back office. And in fairness to them, they probably don't actually want to be in the back office. After all, it's much nicer and more fun and more interesting to be on the beat and out doing what they went into the force to do. But there are kind of crazy statistics, aren't there, Peter, about how much time is spent with paperwork. So a lot of them are sitting there taking reports from people who have been victims of crimes only to issue them with some kind of reference number, and that's it. Bye. Sorry, this isn't, on the grand scale of the awful things we're dealing with, this isn't a priority.
And now people are talking again, as they always do when something like this happens, should we be arming the police, which the police always say, no, we shouldn't. Do they arm the police in Australia? Are they all armed or not?
I think some are armed, but not all of them.
Right.
But I have found that I do see a lot more police patrolling Sydney than I have in London.
Right. Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think there's many
around.
cities where you just don't see them. I mean,
And almost police may as well be in Sydney, actually, for all the good that they do.
Remember how busy they got during COVID, though? I mean, they were patrolling everywhere.
Yes.
They were very eager to tell you you shouldn't be on
And actually, that's a good
You
point.
shouldn't be wearing a mask.
Couldn't sit in a park,
It's like they all came out of nowhere,
And if you
didn't
dared
they?
to protest against
So
lockdown, you
true.
were really stuffed, weren't you?
And was that, Peter, you might be able to answer this, was that because they wanted to do all of those kinds of jobs, or was it because they were ordered to get out and do it?
I think it's fair to say some police officers relished in exercising those very authoritarian and hurriedly enacted laws.
Yeah, you can't
that came
sit there,
in.
that kind of thing.
Same in Australia, Peter.
Unbelievable, isn't it?
What is the aim time for police to get to a crime scene?
Oh, well, 999 response
Whenever
times
you can, I think.
are a very thorny subject.
This week would be good.
You wouldn't mind.
Yes, yes. And they, of course, but you see, it's not dictated by those officers on the front line. It's dictated by the centres into which these 999 calls go. And they are populated with officers as well as the people that actually answer the phone. And, of course, they grade it according to their priorities.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's got to hit particular markers. And perhaps the more instant they deem a reaction to be, then the quicker you are likely to get a police officer there. But just broadening it out, in recent years, the police have turned their backs on the crime that affect the moderate mainstream. Burglary, car crime, bike theft, phone theft,
Mugging.
the elephant in the room, fraud,
Yeah.
all of that. And consequently, they're becoming irrelevant to the public.
They sort
It's
of are, aren't they?
terrifying. And phone theft, it seems to be so,
all the time now.
Getting
common.
decriminalised.
Yeah.
Don't even bother reporting.
Why? They cost $2,000.
I know. Unbelievable. Only yours cost that much, actually, Maddie. But
Yeah,
anyway,
I've got the big one.
you've got the big one. What have you got for us? North Korea.
Yes, this is. I mean, it is obviously tragic, but it is semi-funny if you do think.
Oh, I
about
think
it.
it's very funny.
I
It's
think
It's
it's
hilarious.
funny.
It's not just
Yeah.
funny, this is hilarious.
I'm nominating North Korea.
Yeah.
Because as you've seen this week, North Korea's dictatorship sent massive balloons over the border to South Korea, filled with rubbish and feces and batteries.
How do you
funnily
even get
enough.
that into a balloon? Is what I was.
I mean, have
Really
you
good
seen
point
the
there.
photos?
Someone
They're
has to hold the
huge.
balloon.
But it is quite a remarkable thing
It
to
is
be able to
such
do.
an
And
odd-
how does it float under those circumstances? Sorry.
Big
No,
balloons,
I
apparently.
don't
Seriously,
actually
they were big
know.
balloons.
They were
And
huge
this,
balloons.
apparently this was in retaliation
Yeah.
because South Korea, didn't they send some
They
propaganda leaflets over to
sent
North
sent
Korea?
balloons to North Korea with messages of
Yeah.
propaganda to try and get to.
Well, they call it.
citizens of
Well, they
North
call it
Korea.
propaganda, but maybe it's actually just.
No, it's just
the truth.
messages
Yeah.
of
Right.
messages of democracy over to North
I mean,
Korea.
I'm quite liking their tactics
I
here.
know.
I mean, it's not that expensive, is it?
No.
It's
North or the
basically
south?
the North. You know, the trolling that they're
the
doing
trolling.
there.
Well,
yeah.
I mean,
Well, Kim has definitely got a sense of humour. as
Yeah.
well.
I know.
Well, it
he
made
was
for some
like,
great headlines
a
as
lot
well.
Just
cheaper
said you
than-
send us balloons. Well, I'm going to send you balloons back with poo in them,
Yeah.
and you're going to have to.
Kim
deal
Jong
with
Poo
it.
was one headline I saw. I was going to go with Kim Jong Dung, actually, if I was writing headlines.
Third
that
World
actually
War.
is-
Third World
funny.
War was on the Daily Star. Here's a news report on the whole thing. Have a look.
Last night, residents of Gyeonggi-do province were startled after receiving an emergency disaster text message which read that objects suspected to be leaflets sent by North Korea have been found in the area. Now, over 100 balloons suspected to be filled with waste and attached with excrement have been found across the country.
I mean, that really is a whole load of shit, isn't it?
It takes me back to the 1970s, right? When I'd be watching my beloved Queen's Park Rangers.
Yes, I've noticed that.
And we'd have a song which goes, if I had the wings of a sparrow,
Yes, I know
if
this.
I had the arse
Yeah.
of a crow,
Yeah.
I'd fly over Chelsea tomorrow.
Yep.
I'll let you guess the
Yeah.
rest. But Kim Jong-un is actually
He's
doing
done that.
what I've
Doing
been
it.
singing about for decades.
He's literally pooing on his opponents from a great
Yeah.
height.
Yeah. There's a lot to be said
I
for
mean,
it.
South Korea was not happy, but I thought of you, Isabel, when you nominated.
I
when-
really am
thought-
worried
I
about
thought
this.
of you. No,
Right, well, what's
hear
the
me
link?
out.
What
I
is
thought
the
of you
link?
from one of the other plank that we did together when you
Yeah.
said that people on pension on the dole should be cleaning up the streets of London, and
Yeah, I
I
still
immediately
think that.
thought, why did Kim Jong Un not just come to the streets of London, collect all the dog shit that we've got on the floor? And use that, because I'm sick of these dirty streets. It was
They are
my
pretty bad. It is absolutely right.
Here's an impersonation of a North Korea ammunition factory.
Oh my God,
Yeah,
Peter, that's going to be a
something
meme
like
in
that would
2
happen.
minutes.
Russell, I think it's time to lower the tone even further.
Yeah,
You've got a trans influencer.
Yeah, this is Lily Contino,
Yes.
who is, a trans influencer, well known apparently in the trans community by way of TikTok, Instagram, and all other channels.
I've got a relative called Ford.
Yeah, and listen to this, famous for such videos as trans girl in IKEA, trans girl gets dressed, plus trans girl lights candles in restaurant. Seriously, they are the
Sounds
names
thrilling.
of some of her videos.
Really?
Right.
She also thinks that Kurt Cobain was trans for whatever reason. Anyway,
Okay.
the reason that I'm nominating him,
Right.
see what I did there?
Yeah.
Him, is because Lily has gone onto one of her TikToks and said that trans women, in other words men, should breastfeed.
I've seen this before.
Apparently, I mean, I kid you not, it is possible under some extreme circumstances for men to lactate something or other.
Yeah, but it's
really?
not milk though.
But it's-
so it's not lactation, is it?
Yes, so I have looked into this a little bit, and it was hideous doing this research, by the way.
Yeah, I bet.
and in
How hard did
particular,
you have to squeeze?
or in particular, do
How
not look
long?
up his spicy tortellini video. Don't do it. Don't
No.
look at it. Don't do it.
I am really disturbed to hear about this.
Anyway, so the fact is, and as he says in the video, if you take hormones for 3 to 5 years, you start growing breasts, and then you might better express a tiny bit of milk.
I think we've actually got the video, so let's have a look at it.
Right.
Sorry about this.
You know, it sounds crazy, but trans women can produce milk to feed a baby. Here's how. Step 1, you must grow your coconuts. After about 3 to 5 years of estrogen, you will have fully functional milk ducts from which you can feed a baby. So once your coconuts are grown, it is time to start producing milk. Now, normally getting pregnant would trigger milk production, but since trans women can't get pregnant, we must do it another way. Turns out this is not all that difficult to do. Just add a few extra hormones and supplements and pump your coconuts regularly.
The serious point here is that Lily says just take a few hormones and all's good. Well, there's a thing apparently that you have to take called domperidone. Not to be mistaken with your
domperidone.
favourite drink.
You don't want to get
domperidone.
that wrong, do you?
Don't get those
No?
mixed up. Don't
Right.
get those. So domperidone, which you take, and therefore you technically would express to your, not your baby, your adopted baby, I guess. But it's a substance that has not been licensed by the federal government in the United States
What, you
of
mean
America
the thing that you're supposed to take?
because it's potentially harmful. So basically what Lily is advocating here, in actually, I would argue, let's get it out there, in a kind of fetishy, sexual kind of perversion type of way, which really is what I think this is, that you take a hormone that we think might be dangerous to kids in order to satisfy your sexual gratification.
I mean, this
it's
stuff
disgusting.
is just absolutely
I mean, no one ever wants to
insane,
breastfeed
isn't
as
it?
a
And
woman, so-
the way that he, she, they was explaining that as if it was some kind of, oh, this is how to make a jam sandwich.
Right.
No, this is talking about feeding babies, giving them the nutrition for life.
Yes.
And what is really worrying is that people like that actually are changing policy. So Brighton NHS Trust has policies around all of this stuff. It's obviously a hotbed of trans and they, them congregation down in that neck of the woods. And their super ultra woke NHS Trust is all over this stuff.
And these are the people that call it
encouraging
chest feeding and everything, isn't it?
It's disgusting.
And there will be politicians that will think that this is perfectly okay.
But also, there's no mention there of what it's supposed to do for the child. I mean, the baby who's supposedly in the receipt of this nonsense is not going to get any
But as you
nutrient
said,
from it.
some of the nutrients that are endemic are absolutely in female breast milk are not in the so-called male
So
equivalent.
why are they doing it then?
Sexual
Because you know
fetish.
what? There's such a thing as
It's just
baby
weird.
formula. So let's just
It's
stick with that.
perversion.
If you're going to be a bloke and feed a baby.
And there's a much more fun way to get breasts. Just drink beer for 46 years. You get a pair of bangers like these.
Thank you very much
I was
indeed.
a bit worried where you were going to
Anything
go
to
with
show
that one.
Anything to show that blazer off.
I know, absolutely right. Yeah, but it's just odd, isn't
So
it?
it's, I think,
I don't know how we got here. I
A worthy
really don't.
nomination, but pretty disgraceful, don't you think? Pretty
Right.
disgusting.
Yeah, it's horrible.
And also, who on earth is he influencing with his rubbish?
Well, I guess.
Well, like I
other
say,
trans
I mean,
women.
actual NHS Trust, which
Right.
is what is worrying, because
Right.
they then start thinking, well, we've got to accommodate this because otherwise we'll be,
We'll be
offending they, them.
transphobic, won't we, if we don't go along with it?
Yeah.
And this is the trouble, that we've reached this point where now if anybody trans says anything and you disagree with it, you must be transphobic.
Well,
and
I'm going to
therefore
wear that
cancelled.
badge with some pride.
One,
If it
one
means
silver
objecting
lining.
to this.
One silver lining to the cloud that is that video.
Yeah.
At least Lily, or Nicholas, as is his name
Yeah,
actually, Nick does actually admit that trans women can't have kids.
I was
Yeah, I
going to
was
say,
quite
at least,
surprised.
at least he's truthful about
Yeah,
that.
we haven't really gone through the looking glass totally
Right,
yet.
yeah.
But that will come next, won't it? That will come next.
That will come next, because they'll say, well, actually, yeah, I might not have carried the child to term, but I did get pregnant, because they can just make it up now and go, yeah, I was pregnant.
Yeah, and pretend births.
And that's why...
Which the NHS will fund, no doubt.
Yeah.
Fake births.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's happening. It's going to happen.
Unbelievable. Isabel, over to you.
So, from one weird thing to another, Hillary Clinton. Why do you think she's not president of the United States now? Is it because she...
Because she lost?
Because she lost.
How about that?
Yeah.
Or is it because she's not perfect enough as a woman?
Oh, yeah.
This is why millions of women in America didn't vote her, because that's her explanation. She has been giving an interview
It must be that, then.
as part of some publicity for a book that's not actually her book. And in that interview, she has all sorts of people to blame for how she didn't win the election back in 2016. And high on her list is the fact that she's not perfect enough, so women didn't like her.
Does she blame her stylist on the basis of those horrible pantsuits?
The pantsuits.
It could have been. It could have also been when she collapsed, when she was trying to get into a van that time. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And when she sort of went down on her knees, and everyone thought she's not very well, actually.
I was in a card shop yesterday. It was rubbish.
Yeah, Clinton. Very good. I see what you did there. I've often wondered if there was a connection, but now that you've told me, it makes
But you know,
perfect
she
sense.
didn't stop there, by the way, in this interview where she's blaming everyone. So she wasn't too happy with James Comey and the FBI. Do you remember where they opened that big investigation into however many thousands of emails had found their way onto her private email account rather than the proper state one from having been Secretary of State? But she also says in this interview that she is really worried that if Trump wins this time round, there may never be another election in America.
Do you know that is a narrative that the nutty Democrats, the more nutty, the better, actually believe? They think that he's going to stop all elections.
Isn't that as fear-inducing as what they're effectively labelling Trump as saying?
Yes.
Well, yeah,
it's the
isn't
same
that
thing.
just election denial in the same sense?
Well, did you see this week? I mean, we could have made him a plank, actually, Robert De Niro. We should give him a special mention, where he turned up outside the courthouse and started shouting at everybody.
Almost in tears.
Yeah,
Italian.
saying F you to all these people who were there sort of demonstrating on behalf of Trump.
Yeah.
And it was almost as though he'd become deranged.
Well, they're just losing their minds again at the prospect that Trump might actually get somewhere.
I know, but when Hollywood stars come out and talk politics, no one's going to listen. It's just going to backfire.
Right.
Who wants a millionaire?
Well, the last time he had a go at Trump, which was, I think, back in 2016, and he banned Trump famously from coming to his Nobu, very expensive chain of restaurants. And Trump just said, yeah, well, that's fine, because most of my voters can't actually afford $250 for a steak. You know, because these guys live a ridiculous life, you know.
Yeah.
But Hillary Clinton, I mean, there's so many reasons why she lost.
I mean, basically, people in America just didn't like her.
No.
They didn't
and
like
she
her.
did lose women voters. But
it wasn't because she's not perfect.
No.
It's because she's really annoying.
Yes, exactly
But she's still
right.
banging on about it 80 years later.
Well, I've got a bit of sympathy for that. I mean, it's kind of a big deal losing a presidential election.
Especially as women.
I get that. It's probably not something that you quickly just get over park and say,
8 years
right.
later?
Well,
But especially for her to lose to
Trump's
Trump
still banging
as well,
on
because
about
who
it
she
4
thinks is
years
like the
later.
worst person in the world.
Yeah.
And everywhere she goes, they go, you actually lost to Donald Trump, didn't
So
you?
he's probably going to win twice, and she's never won. Yeah.
No.
That's what it's really about.
There we are. Well, don't worry, because Bill won twice, didn't he?
And rumour has it, Monica does it better.
Thank you very much indeed. You're really raising the tone today, aren't you? I mean,
Yes.
your mother will be very proud of you with that rose.
And she's
in you.
watching that
she will be.
flower.
Yeah, absolutely right. Well, listen, coming up in the next bit, I'm going to be telling you about junior doctors. Yeah, that's going on strike again. And also, there's an ice cream man who's being threatened with arrest. I think you're doing that one. This is Plank of the Week. We'll be back after this. Welcome back to Plank of the Week. Well, it's time for my go now. We've had 4 very, very good suggestions first up. But I'm going to be telling you about the latest from the junior doctors. They've decided that, they haven't had enough striking over the last year. I think they've struck so much that they've cost the NHS something like at least 1 million different operations that could have happened that they couldn't be bothered to do. It got so bad the last time they were striking that they didn't even bother picketing after a while because it didn't actually make any difference. The NHS is so bad that the fact that the junior doctors weren't doing anything...
No one noticed.
Nobody really noticed because people are so used to getting a phone call from somebody going, sorry, we have to cancel your operation. Yeah. And everybody just goes, oh, again, because that's about the 3rd time. But these people are a disgrace because most doctors do not actually go on strike. These guys make an awful lot of noise. They've been offered 10%, they don't want it. They keep saying that their hours are terrible, they don't want to work weekends, they don't want to work evenings, and their job is a complete and utter sort of slavery.
And Mike, let's be clear, this is 10% over, what, an average of £70,000 a year?
Yeah, they're getting paid very well.
Well, the myth is that, junior doctors are all on about £28,000 a year. They're not. The average is on about 70k.
Yeah,
Some
exactly.
of them that are still junior doctors many years into their career are on six figures.
And they get great pension schemes.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And if they do get called in at a weekend, or if they work a bank holiday or something like that, they get paid a massive amount of money for it.
Yeah.
But you also talk about the number of operations that have been cancelled as a consequence of the strike action and the cost to the NHS and therefore the taxpayer. What about the lives?
Yeah.
Can we count how many lives they've actually lost as a consequence of their strike action?
Absolutely right. And also every other group of people in the NHS, the nurses, the consultants, and even I think some of the ancillary workers have all settled with the government. And only the junior doctors are the ones. And guess what? They're going to strike just before the election. As if that's not a political point.
This is anarchy, isn't it?
Yeah.
This is just trying to bring a government down. It's a political thing.
I mean, they are highly political. I have sat in on BMA conferences when I was writing a book about the state of the NHS, and there is no doubt, we're not going to talk about which parties they favour, but I think it's fairly clear when you go into any of these meetings how they are aligned and what their agenda is.
Yeah.
And the BMA is a trade union. It is not in the interests of patients. That is not what its core mission is. It is to look after its own, those that pay its own subs.
I mean, often in spite of the patient.
Often, exactly that. Well, which is what this is. But what I hate about it most is the kind of phony excuses for their strikes. They always say, oh, it's not safe if we carry on working these terrible hours and if we're not... Well, hey, guess what, guys? People are dying because of your strike. And it just doesn't stack up.
Is there a shortage?
There's actually more doctors in the NHS now than there were 10, 15 years ago. But they don't ever tell you that.
But yeah, there is a
those
shortage.
Facts that they don't
there is a shortage because there's just ever more patients. I mean,
there's
comes
10
back
million
to
more
if
people.
you import a load of people into this country and you don't actually build the stuff for them, then hey, you're going to get
But I'll
queued.
tell you what we've got for you. I can show you something that the doctors are very, very good at. Let's have a look at this.
So what has Palestine got to do with the NHS? I mean, absolutely nothing.
Are you joking? I mean, then you know that we're affiliated.
Is there a connection?
The NHS has recognised Palestine as a state. Of course it has.
The Hippocratic oath that they say as they get
first do no harm.
Yeah. Well, how is it doing no harm
Doesn't
when
say
you're on a
first do
picket
nothing,
line
does it?
doing
I
nothing,
mean, it's not...
knowing that people are going to die as a consequence of your inaction?
But an awful lot of this is also very, very sort of, shall we say, twisted, because a lot of the people on those picket lines are not doctors at all. A lot of them are people who work in the hospital. And you might not be surprised to know diversity coordinators, net zero specialists, all this kind of thing. And they're all the ones that are out on the picket line. Because we've done interviews with picket line people, and we was during the nurses' strike, couldn't find any nurses. Everyone on the picket line was doing something else.
But it doesn't surprise me that so many of these junior doctors get radicalised in the manner that they do.
Yes.
Because they're spending 6-7 years in a university.
That's true, yeah.
If we took them out of those university environments and had them in a specific medicine school...
like a medical school.
Yeah, exactly. Then maybe there would be less time for people to get into their heads.
Without the indoctrination.
Yeah.
Maybe they should just learn on the job.
A bit worrying. I'm sure there was a suggestion.
I don't want to drop the standards.
About reducing the degrees to 3 years?
Yes.
Oh,
which I thought was a bit unsettling.
Yeah, sorry, that's too unsettling.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think they're obviously overqualified for what they do, aren't they? Because
you can find out a lot on Google. Is that what you're saying?
I think so. Well, I mean, how many times have you been to a GP and the GP's actually Googling
They start
stuff?
looking at
They start looking, and you go, you're not looking at anything other than Google there, are you? You're just checking it out to see if you can get a clue.
Well, there's also the small matter. I think it's the last time I looked, £6 billion worth of claims against the NHS every year for misconduct.
Negligence. Well, I mean, you'll know this, Isabel, the maternity ward scandal, which goes on. I was reading, I think, in the Times the other day, that now a third of the maternity budget goes towards payments for negligence.
Compensation for birth injuries.
Yeah, for birth injuries.
Because those payments are phenomenal, because when things go tragically wrong in a birth, that is frequently, I'm afraid, care for life, round-the-clock care for life. If a baby is deprived of oxygen at that crucial time, that is
But yet we hold
very,
the
very
NHS up as
serious.
this pedestal that we're not
Well,
allowed
it's
to
Do you know what?
criticise.
I don't think we do
I'm starting to disappear.
I don't think that's all I've been
It's
hearing.
starting to disappear.
Good.
It's going. The
because
cult
if you
is
don't criticise it and they
disintegrating.
don't accept some of that criticism, it will never improve, will it?
Yeah. Right,
Yeah.
I know. It's absolutely ridiculous. Ridiculous. But there we are. Peter, over to you.
Yes, my second nomination is East Lindsey District Council.
East Lindsey? Where's that?
Yeah, Lincolnshire.
All right.
Yeah, because there's a...
I don't think I've ever been to Lincolnshire, you know.
I think it's a long way
sausages.
away.
Where is
That's
it?
a problem.
Great sausages.
Well, it's kind of
sort of towards the east and then straight up
sort
the
of
A1.
up north and then to the right a little bit.
Oh.
The home of Thatcher.
Up the
you know?
A1.
My goodness, I go there on a regular basis to pay homage.
Do you?
Yeah, to the statue.
That's just to give your car a run, though, isn't it?
Doesn't get out much.
So there's a 33-year-old fella called John Barton, no
Right.
relation to Joey apparently.
That's good.
Right, who runs Harrison's Ices,
Right.
an ice cream firm.
Harrison's Ices?
Harrison's
Not
Ices.
Barton's Ices?
No, funny
Well,
enough.
not ISIS. ISIS. Yeah.
Not ISIS? No, I thought that was something else.
Yeah.
We're back to the NHS.
That's a different division.
ISIS.
And he says, free Palestine. No, he doesn't.
No.
He doesn't say anything at all.
Free Palestine with every corner.
Are they all coloured with green and red ice?
Yeah, that would be good, actually. You could sell a load
Please
of those.
don't give them ideas,
No.
okay? Just-
Next time they've got a march, just set up an ice cream van.
I think it would do really well.
I would be there if that's the case.
And of course, the lovely Mr. Barton's got an ice cream van, of which he's rightfully proud, and
Yeah.
he sells his delicious ice creams from. And like every other ice cream van in the world, it's got chimes.
Of course.
Right.
And his is the Blue Peter tune, which I won't,
No, I
repeat
can't remember
now.
the Blue Peter tune,
Okay,
actually.
so-
but-
Oh,
What's the
well, you're
problem with
tricking
it?
it out of me now, aren't you? I'm
trying to.
Wasn't it?
Oh, is it? I thought that was
That's Captain Pugwash.
No, I thought that was
Oh, is
the...
it?
Yeah, it was some kind of naval
See?
thing.
I
That
should
is a
have paid
sailor
attention.
thing, isn't it?
That was
Yeah,
Captain Pugwash.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
Let's
the
not go
Jolly
there.
Roger, apparently, I'm being
Anyway,
told.
what's wrong with the ice cream van? I
There we
don't
go.
get it.
So, anyway, he's got an ice cream van,
Right.
Mr. Barton, and he plays his chimes,
Right.
and he's had a letter
Oh, dear.
from the council warning him that his chimes are too loud.
Of course they have.
And that he could be in breach of the Pollution Act
Noise
of
pollution.
1974.
Well, that'll give the Lincolnshire Police something to look out for, won't it?
Well-
I think we've got a little video of Mr. Barton. Let's have a look.
But no, I don't think we're doing anything wrong. I think people need to just chill out.
So you're complying with the rules. Do you think the rules are fair?
No, they're a bit outdated. For example, you can play music in your garden until 11 o'clock at night, and we can't play our chime for 12 seconds without someone complaining about them. So I think it's a bit unfair, and it's damaging the industry in bigger scales than you can imagine.
He
That's
looks
some great
crushed.
reporting.
He just looks
That actually
crushed,
breaks
doesn't
my
it?
heart. That's a child.
terrible.
That's a
Sorry,
child.
did you hear what he
I
said?
think-
They should just chill out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know.
I
Fantastic.
think that there should be a kind of solidarity ice
Yeah,
cream.
all over the world.
That everyone can
protest.
descend there in their vans and
Yeah,
all play their
yeah.
tunes. You
Yeah.
know when like the taxi drivers do
Like the
that in
farmers
London?
doing their tractors.
Yeah, exactly. Ice
Yes.
cream van.
Didn't this happen in Greenwich
idea.
recently, when the local Greenwich Council here in London, I think, banned all ice cream lorries, trucks and vans on the grounds that not only were they too noisy, but they were dishing out non-good food for children. And the
See,
children
this
should be eating-
cuts to the very heart of why this nation is going down the tube.
actually agree with you.
Ice
I
cream
agree.
is a joyous thing.
It's an
And the
It should be
institution.
consumed
Yeah.
more.
Yeah.
It makes people happier.
Especially that horrible stuff that comes out of those.
I love it.
ghastly-
I love
It's not horrible.
Great. It is horrible.
The
It's
artificial
not
ice
horrible.
cream.
But you eat it though. 'cause
It's
good.
one of life's
Mr.
true
Whippy.
gifts.
It's Mr. Whippy, and when you run outside, it's best in suburbia, as we saw in that clip,
Yeah.
where you're in your house and you hear it. You hear it
Yes.
from streets away. I want it as loud as as
Yeah.
it can be, so I can hear it and run outside.
What kind of misery guts
But
don't
I don't
wanna hear
understand
it.
how that can be a problem when, and then you've got in Soho all those little buggies running around
Yeah.
that cost $1
Boom
million with their boom box
Oh, yeah,
so
that's the-
loud,
yeah.
and then you've got those cars coming with the
baffles.
bubbles
Yeah,
coming
yeah.
out. I'm like, isn't that pollution?
I haven't seen those. What's that about?
Oh, these trucks go around.
You spend a lot of time in Soho, don't you?
I've been there like
talked about
twice.
Soho the last time you were on the
I'm
show.
really young, Mike.
Are you?
And they go
Crikey.
around, these trucks go around, and coming off the back of them is just bubbles.
Really?
Floating.
That sounds dangerous.
I
Somebody
mean,
will ban that.
is that not pollution?
Somebody will ban that because it will be dangerous to slip
I
on.
quite like it, so I hope it doesn't get banned. But the moral of the story is, come on,
Yeah.
keep the fun going.
Yeah,
especially
but I mean,
with ice cream.
the irony about that ice cream truck is that the stuff that's coming out of that thing is not ice cream.
Yeah.
It's just kind of fake ice cream, isn't it?
But it's
But
great.
it's-
But it's
It is
amazing.
great.
with
As long as you stick a
sprinkles.
flake in it.
Stick a flake in
Stick a
it.
flake in it.
Oh, my word. I'm salivating now
Yes.
at the
I
very
think you
thought
should have
of
brought
it.
some props along.
I know.
Oh.
We can't afford them anymore, I'm afraid.
No,
And we spent
okay.
all the money, so
Cost
there's
of
no more
living
ice cream
crisis.
for anyone, I'm afraid.
It's tragic
Right, Maddie,
times.
over to you.
Oh, well,
Bit of showbiz.
A bit of showbiz reporting from me. I'm nominating Nicki Minaj because over the weekend she was caught flying from Amsterdam, ironically, to Manchester, and the police at the airport pulled her over and said, "Hey, we found marijuana in your luggage," and she denies.
Was it in the checked luggage then?
Yes, and then they'll like, "You need to come to the police station," which she refused. She ended up, I don't know if we have the clip, she ended up live streaming
now, just before we watch the clip, for people who may not know who Nicki Minaj is...
she's a rapper, an American rapper. And police put out a statement.
She's quite outrageous, isn't she?
She is, but she's very popular, popular in the US and very popular here. Obviously, she had sold out shows, and basically she missed her Manchester show because she was stuck at Amsterdam airport because rightfully the police say you've got drugs, and it's legal to have marijuana in Amsterdam, but it's also, obviously not legal to be taking it on a plane and over to different areas, bringing it to the UK.
So we're going to look now at this from Nicki Minaj. No, Nicki Minaj.
I'm not carrying drugs.
Okay, but it's not a question here. I think it's.
I'm not carrying drugs. Inside. Number one, when I came here, you can go inside. I'm not going in there. I need a lawyer present.
You will get a lawyer.
No, I need a lawyer present now.
Okay, please.
Where am I going? I have no idea where I'm going.
You have to go to the police station.
What address is that?
It's 5 minutes away.
So I'm under arrest.
Yes.
But under arrest for what?
Okay, stop filming now.
I'm under arrest for what? Okay. Do you know what happened when I came here?
You have to go inside.
And the reason why she's nominated is because she ended up missing the Manchester show.
Yeah. And I had tickets for that.
Yeah, and Peter is such a big fan.
Yeah.
This blazer was actually going to be there as well. But there was fans already in the arena waiting for her.
But you know, was this not also the curse of the Co-op Arena, which I'm quite surprised we haven't made a plank yet, because they have not had a very good start to their business, have they?
Well, they're the plank because they told the people she was already in Amsterdam, and they told them at about 9 p.m. or something when everyone's already there. Sorry, guys, she's not arrived yet. It's like you could have preempted that.
Right.
I had access all areas. I had a badge and everything.
You were VIP. You were doing the meet and greet.
I had a bit of gear lined up for her and everything.
Yeah, they've almost every show they've tried to put on has gone horribly wrong.
It was her attitude, wasn't it? That was what
which
is why I think she needs to be banned, because she was just showboating there. This was all for clicks, wasn't it? Clicks and likes. Clearly posturing in front of cameras. Oh, what have I done wrong?
It was that ignorance that you're in another country. It's just follow the rules, and this isn't some absurd rule.
Was she doing that live on TikTok or something?
On Instagram, and quite a few fans posted videos or were writing comments just saying, "I'm so annoyed at this because we've paid X amount to go to this concert. You could have given us more warning, or you know." Crazily, or maybe you could have not smuggled drugs.
Get in the van.
Also, how stupid is whoever it was in her crew who thinks that you're coming to Britain, which is a drug-free zone. I mean, you're not going to try and have much trouble buying marijuana in Britain, are you?
Right.
Exactly.
Everywhere you go, you can smell it. You just go up to the guy smoking it and say, "Have you got it?"
Yeah.
They were going to Manchester after all, right?
Yeah. Well, exactly.
and coming from Amsterdam, have you not done enough there?
Yeah.
I mean, it is actually ridiculous, isn't it? But I mean, of course, the other problem is that she wants a lawyer because she's American.
That really annoyed me.
I mean, you're just being taken by a security guard at an airport. You don't need a lawyer for that. You just need to stop being such an arse.
She was on her way within 5 to 6 hours.
Yeah, and she got to the hotel in Manchester and gave everybody an audience across from her balcony, didn't she, apparently?
I didn't say that.
Yeah.
How very gracious
kind of like, let them
her.
eat cake kind of way.
Yeah, I'd been tempted not to.
She'll probably go back to America and go, "I'm never going to Europe again."
Yeah.
I hate Europe.
They're so strict.
It's awful.
You can't take your drugs anywhere.
Awful. You know, they wouldn't let me take my drugs through the airport.
How outrageous.
Anyway, what have we got next? Coming up, children to be funded by the taxpayer because they're lonely. That's right. That'll be interesting. This is Plank of the Week, coming up with more after this. So, we're very nearly through to the end. We've only got 3 more to go. One for me, one from Russell, one from Isabel. Russell, you want to talk about fishing?
Yeah, well, I don't really, but I feel compelled to. I feel compelled to.
Talking about fishing is better than fishing.
Yeah, so this is another hat tip to the woke society that we live in. So this is an initiative by University College London, which actually mirrors an NHS initiative, which has been around for a few years, actually, at taxpayer expense. I'll just remind us. So this is the funding of 600 children between the ages of 9 and 13 years old taking them on such things as museum trips, taking them gardening and taking them fishing with caseworkers, who, by the way, are on about £30,000 a year each. 600 of these kids as a pilot scheme because they feel, these children, lonely and anxious. And apparently it's said that by taking them on these trips, it's going to cure them of all sorts of anxieties, cure them of loneliness, and the world will be a better place. Now, what I suggest is instead of spending, I think it's about £5 million on this stupid initiative, those kids go out, make some friends, maybe go to school, make some friends, join a club.
What are their parents doing?
Get a life.
Well, are they disadvantaged children?
Get a life. No, just kids generally across multiple different schools. So it's an experiment, but it is already going on with adults. So you can go to your doctor now, apparently, if you can get an appointment. Good luck. And you can be prescribed a thing called a social prescription, which is that you effectively then get prescribed. This is ridiculous. You know, I don't know, a walk in the park or a day at the gym.
Do you have to go to the pharmacist?
Bowling or whatever. I guess take the pharmacist with you at great expense. And this apparently is how we're going to cure future generations of being a bit depressed and a bit anxious.
And what's interesting, of course, is that they're saying, well, the thing is, there's a lot of problems with children who are depressed because they were all in lockdown. You go, well, you made them go into lockdown. You know, no wonder they're not very happy.
But also, one of the reasons, perhaps, that all of these kids are so lonely is because they got their faces buried in mobile phones 23 hours a day.
God,
It'd be that as well, couldn't it?
I'm all for the initiative if it's for disadvantaged children or kids in foster care.
Kids generally. So
this is cool. But kids in foster care already get that stuff. They already get treated.
You rock up and you say, I'm a bit lonely, take me fishing, and the taxpayer pays for it.
Also, it's going to be really funny when they discover that when they get to the place where they're going to do the fishing, the reason that people go fishing is to be on their own. They don't actually, want anybody to be there with them. They all like leave the wife at home and go fishing, sit in a damp tent on the side of a lake for days on end. They don't want to talk to anyone.
Have you ever tried and talk to them? They're so grumpy. Have you ever tried it?
I only see them.
Excuse me, I'm just going to butt in here.
Go on.
I bought my fishing licence yesterday.
Did you?
OK.
Are you
£38.50.
Feeling lonely?
The best money I'll spend this year. There is nothing like a day's fishing. It's wonderful.
Well, I imagine you'd be quite chatty.
I can imagine that.
Yeah, well, I go with my kids, you see. This initiative is parenting. You take your kids fishing. You take your kids to museums. You take your kids for a walk round a park and enjoy
You're
nature.
supposed to take your kids out. That's part of being a parent.
Enjoy their company.
I'm afraid, Pete, your quiet solace is about to be disturbed by 600 kids rocking up with fishing rods.
Yeah.
And why do you need a license?
And they'll all be really anxious as well.
And a bit grumpy.
Yeah, licensed activity.
But there is this thing about anxiety now, isn't there? I mean, you've just told me how young you are, right? So now you'll probably stick up for the anxious.
You know what? I'm gonna stick up for them a bit. I do think that we're in a time. I mean, I think there's a fine line where we're not glamorising and feeding into a phenomenon to make it something that it is. But you should...
Yeah, but we shouldn't be spending all the money on it.
We shouldn't be spending all the money, but we should be investing in anxiety and depression and vote. Be vote because it's a real thing.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
How has society prevailed over the last 10,000 years, particularly when it comes to youngsters, without all this stupid intervention?
I mean, do you think my mother was a bit anxious when she was running down into a bomb shelter in the Second World War?
I'm sure
Might have been a bit anxious.
Yeah.
She didn't ask for a day out fishing. She just went down there and got on with it.
I'm not saying fishing
to London, she was a bit anxious as well.
Fishing was my worst idea.
And the museum visits. Don't forget the museum.
No, I actually don't want to go to the museums. I went the other week and I didn't enjoy. Well, yeah, the crowds actually did make me anxious.
There you go. So they're actually
what a worthless
hoist for their own petard. We'd like to take you to a museum. No, it makes me anxious. No, I don't want to. I mean, the whole thing is nonsense. And the idea they're going to spend how much money?
£4.5 million is the number that I could find in my research.
And how? I mean, I was asked this. How does it even cost £4.5 million to come?
Because all the caseworkers. So each
I'll do it for a lot less.
Each caseworker apparently then meets each child at least 8 times. And that caseworker, each of them is on £30,000.
Is that like a school counsellor taking you out of school?
Well, no, it'll be someone from the NHS.
But the kids want to, if they want to be less lonely, they don't want to hang out with a counsellor. They don't want 8 meetings with a counsellor, do they?
With a 35-year-old graduate.
8 meetings with friends or something, which is free.
I'd happily take a kid fishing for the day.
Yeah.
But in order to do that, you'd have to be DBS checked. You'd probably have to go on some kind of course.
Yeah.
Go through goodness knows what other kind of bureaucratic nonsense and would hoover up all my time.
Yeah.
So I'd just go, no, thank you.
Or the kids could just go out and make some bloody friends.
Right.
Yeah.
That's it.
And go fishing with their mates.
Get off their
It's not that easy, Russell.
How about you buy them a football?
Kidding.
Why don't you buy them a football?
Yeah.
Go out.
I agree.
I used to go to my local park and you'd have a football, and within about 10 minutes, you were playing football with a load of kids you didn't know.
Yeah.
The other good thing is dogs. Dogs help for loneliness.
But that's why I agree with you when I think that there is this problem with socialisation with kids because the phones have changed it. There's no emphasis on being outside and having this huge imagination and making friends.
And kids also don't particularly want to do a lot of stuff. Sometimes you have to
we also not forget these kids. But these kids go to school. They sit in classes famously of 30 kids plus however many other in their year group. So they are, entrenched within a social situation with loads of other kids 5 days a week. If they can't make friends, if they're anxious about the world, look, get over it, get a life.
But then I also think that's up to the schools.
It's up to the parents.
Well, it's up to the parents, really, isn't it?
Because, look, this is, again, the serious point is that this is the state getting far too big. Far too big.
Yeah, absolutely right. Isabel, over to you.
Talking about big and bossy.
Yes.
I am nominating bossy train announcers. The bossy train announcers and the announcers in stations. And my particular bugbear is actually being told what to do by kids. So there is a mainline station in London where, I actually think it might be in the Underground as well, where you have to listen to a little girl who's age 9 going, "Hello everybody and listen up. Take care on the escalators and hold on to the handrails while travelling." Honestly, I've heard this 1,000 times. I've looked into it today. Apparently it's been going since 2018.
Really?
So poor kid is actually probably grown up by now.
Yeah. Wow.
But this is just a continuation of a theme where we are being shouted at or instructed or bossed all the time everywhere we go. Yesterday on the train coming to Talk Towers from Portsmouth to London Bridge, the train announcer began not by a nice welcoming thing, telling you can get hot and cold snacks and have a happy journey. The beginning of an announcement was about how the train company wouldn't tolerate any abuse and how actually they now wear body cams and that any abuse would be recorded and we would all be, filmed and prosecuted. I mean, kind of what a way to welcome people to your train.
Right.
Just sets a really ugly tone, doesn't it?
Especially for tourists.
Yeah,
I've got to declare a conflict of interest, I'm afraid. It was my daughter that recorded that.
No, it wasn't.
No, it wasn't.
I signed the deal for her.
I know it wasn't because I looked into it and it was
she
a little
gets
girl
a penny
called Megan.
every time that's played. She was 12 when she did it.
She's
now living on a super yacht in the south of France.
That's right.
With the royalties.
And all the money came from TfL, presumably, right?
So actually they claim that it's reduced accidents on the Underground, hearing this little girl piping away about hold on to the handrail. I mean, they say that it's actually cut accidents, which is why they're carrying on using it. I mean, does anyone actually go, all right then, I've just heard a 9-year-old telling me to take care on the escalator.
I noticed this yesterday, it happened to be on the tube, and they've got these little brushes now that run down the side of the escalator.
They've got those ages.
Keep your feet away.
They never used to have.
But to clean your shoes.
To make sure that, I thought that's what it's for.
Oh, what's it for?
I was brushing my shoes on it. Yeah, but apparently it's to make sure you don't get your foot stuck in the escalator.
My dad did that once, and it was honestly a memory that I'm never going to forget.
It is actually a real thing. So my daughter got her shoelaces stuck in the escalator at the bottom. And she fell, and there was very soon, everyone quite quickly piles up. So that is a thing. Yeah. But I don't think listening to a 9-year-old saying, do your shoelaces up would help. That was my job.
Or an announcer telling you when it's raining outside heavily that you should be careful because the weather dictates that it might be slippery.
Yeah.
I know. It's raining. I know it's raining. I've just been out there in it, for goodness sake. Yeah.
Right. Also, maybe put something down on the floor so that it's not slippery when it's wet, because it does rain quite a lot in Britain. It might be worth putting some carpet down.
Perhaps all the TfL people that are standing around talking about yesterday's telly at the actual turnstiles might get a mop and a bucket and go downstairs and start
maybe, and while we're at it, maybe they could actually stop some of the people that burst through the barriers, because this now seems to be something that...
Is that a trend?
Yeah, that's just a thing.
Yeah,
not paying. Now you just go through.
Yeah, they just all shuffle through together. What happened to your dad's foot?
Oh, that was actually really scary. I remember we were I think I must have been 10, and we were at the shopping centre, and my little brother was a small, 4-year-old, and he was waiting at the top, and he wouldn't come down. And in order for my dad, he didn't want to leave his 3-year-old, 4-year-old son, he walked up the escalators that were going down, and his foot got stuck at the top, and he got caught, and all I remember is just blood, and then the car just being full of blood, and he was such a... such an Australian bloke, so he would just not.
Oh, it's nothing.
It's
fine.
Not anxious then.
Your entire
His foot's
not
hanging
anxious.
off.
His entire foot is hanging off practically, and I'm like.
And did he recover? Okay.
Yeah, he was fine. It's like there's nothing to see here. I'm like, well, you've got half a foot, so.
Serves him right.
Oh my God.
What, Peter?
Did it bleed into his beard?
Now, of course, there's a sign that says, "Please do not walk the wrong way up the escalator."
Exactly.
And then a big
because
announcement.
I was tempted.
But that was the thing. I remember Peter Hitchens coming in one day during sort of the lockdown, the worst of the lockdown, and he walked through London Bridge Station, and he said literally there was a sign within every 5 feet, like make sure you stay a metre apart from the person in front, make sure you stay to the right, make sure you don't go upstairs that way, you go upstairs that way, don't forget to wear a mask. It was literally non-stop.
I mean, some of this stuff is still there. There's like this legacy, weird ex-COVID stuff. I was in somewhere the other day and there was a notice up saying maintain social distancing.
They have it on the train seats. They still say, like, maintain 1.5 metres. On the seats. I'm not going to do that. If I get a chair, I'll be sitting down.
Yeah. My wife's still got that sign in our bed.
Yeah, I'm surprised.
What is
those jokes you keep telling.
You're one-minded.
Maybe it's our jacket.
How big is that bed?
Yeah. Wait till you see his dressing gown, you think that's bad. Anyway, we've got more to do, but not much more, because I'm going to come back with the Archbishop of Wokery. You know exactly who I'm talking about. This is Plank of the Week. More coming up after this. So, he hasn't been on this for a while, as old Justin Welby, the Archbishop of Wokery, or the Archbishop of Woke, as some people call him. You know how he likes to tell everybody what to do. He doesn't like to talk about Christianity all that much, but he does like to talk about being good, and he likes to talk about being green, and he likes to talk about the Church of England being green in particular. And so he's ordered all of the churches in the land, which are affiliated to the Church of England, to go carbon neutral. Right, so he's told them all they have to get rid of. They've got boilers anyway. Get rid of that. Get yourself a heat pump. Most of these places haven't really got any money. He's not giving them any money, even though they've got about 8 billion.
He's busy giving it all to slavery reparations.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. He's busy giving a lot of it away to slavery reparations. Also, the Church of England, under his watch, has got about 8 billion quid, but he can't give any of it to the local, parishes that need to either, get heat pumps put in or get rid of any of the nasty
So what are they going to do, double glaze the stained glass windows?
Well, I don't know what they're going to do, actually, but the problem is for the Archbishop, he's now being called the Archbishop of Air Miles because he's actually racked up 48,000 miles.
Oh, that's going
flying to places like Africa, Gaza and Pakistan since September.
Couldn't he stay at one of them?
Well, you would like to think so, wouldn't you? He's basically said everybody else should achieve net zero apart from him. And he's coming up, he's going to be travelling to Guatemala, El Salvador, Panama and Costa Rica. That'll be later on next month
What's
in
he
June.
flying? First class?
Well, apparently they say he only flies economy unless he's going long haul.
Right.
Well, I think all of those are long haul.
I think they're all long haul.
And I don't imagine he goes in economy. I mean, you can't get in with all that gear on, can you?
No.
Or with the big hat
and the big hat.
And you never know what, Joe blows on that flight. He probably needs a little bit of protection.
I was talking the other day to a young man who I work with occasionally, whose Anglican faith is really important to him. Really important. It's central to who this young man is. And he is a lovely fella. And we're talking about faith and religion and all that kind of stuff. And he said, Welby, with almost every spoken word that falls out of his trap, is driving people away.
Of course he is.
From the central tenets of what this young man's faith is all about.
Yeah,
he
I
said
couldn't
it's
agree more.
unbelievable.
Well, congregations are diminishing hugely and rapidly.
And actually, one of the things that to go back to COVID for a minute, one of the things that people were really unhappy about was that the churches were all shut down.
Yeah, we understand.
Deserted everybody,
and people
didn't
who wanted to go to church couldn't go to church because
he didn't give any
COVID.
leadership during that time.
No.
He really didn't. And they could have done so much. They could have had little services outdoors if we were going to accept that you couldn't have them indoors. They could have done, for the people that go to church, it's just so important to have that gathering. And he just basically accepted it all. I thought it was awful.
I think so. According to the people who run these things up against each other, apparently the 48,000 miles on the 10 trips since last September would have created something like 15 tonnes of carbon dioxide emissions, which is quite a lot by anybody's standard, and that increases his carbon footprint massively. And basically the Church of England have said, well, there's nothing wrong with advocating for net zero at home while advocating for Christianity abroad, which is what they're
Why is he
saying
going
he's
to all
doing.
these places anyway?
Well, apparently he went to Gaza to see whether the Christians were okay, apparently.
Right.
What?
You
Well, I
probably
think I could have answered that for
Did
him.
you meet all of them then?
Probably could have made a call, I would
I think we could
you
have
know,
answered
okay?
that. Yeah,
No,
not really.
no, there's some bombs falling on us.
Yeah.
Right.
It's kind of the Emma Thompson defence, isn't it?
It
I
is.
know I flew first class at huge cost from a carbon perspective, but it's okay if I do it. It's worth it because I'm spreading the word.
Believe you me,
That's what they all say.
Believe you me, he'd be a lot better off staying in the UK, sorting out clergy disciplinary measures, thereby improving things hugely for many victims of crime.
Yeah.
And given the diminishing congregation, shut half the Anglican churches,
Yeah.
sell them and use the money to do all the things that he's telling us in society and government to do.
Right, and give some of their land away to build some houses on. Because that would be a good thing as well. But we have to choose a winner. It's quite difficult this week, you know.
Oh, please.
I quite like Hillary Clinton for a winner. I think that's quite good. The police we can't do because we always do the police.
I quite
In
like
fact,
the ice cream council.
The ice
East
cream man,
Lindsey
actually.
District Council.
But also coconut
East
boy,
Lindsey
the boy with the
District Council.
coconuts.
The boy,
the trans
thing.
guy with
Yeah,
the...
I
that
quite like
I-
North Korea.
Well, I do, yeah, but I feel like I've got to lobby a bit harder for Lily Contino, surely. I mean,
Yeah, I
seriously.
don't know. I don't like giving them
Men
paper of the week,
breastfeeding.
though, those
But then
people.
Hillary
I
Clinton
don't
saying
like-
there might never be an election again.
North Korea.
Yeah,
North Korea.
thanks, Chuck.
Yeah,
Yeah.
although except everybody thought it was a good idea, though.
It's quite funny.
Yeah,
Well-
It's funny.
we can give them
But not
plank
sure
of the
they're
week.
planks.
I suppose we could give them plank of the week. couldn't
I think I deserve it, and so do they.
we? Right. Well, what does everybody else think? Do you think you're happy to give it to?
No, I think the
Maddie?
trans.
I don't want to give it to the trans
No, I
people,
don't
though.
want
I
to
just
do
don't want
that
to give them
either.
that kind of publicity.
Can you hurry up
True,
because
that's
ammunition's
true.
calling?
Okay.
Oh, right,
Okay,
okay.
Ice Cream Council.
Oh, let's do that.
Everyone agrees on
Maybe
that.
ice
Let's do the
cream.
ice cream
Yeah.
council. What's
Yeah,
the name
they're
of it?
just like
East Lindsey District
East
Council.
Lindsey District
Killjoy.
Council. There you go. You are the planks of the week, as ruled by the panel. Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Bleksley. Thank you, Maddie. Thank you, Russell. Thank you,
you.
Isabel. We'll see you next week, same time.